Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter, New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato. I want to start the top of the show by saying happy holidays to everyone. Happy Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, whatever you do celebrate. Thank you for supporting us throughout this season. If you're a new listener or if you've been here for a while, thank you for supporting us throughout the years. This is the type of thing where the show doesn't work without you guys. We know that, you guys and girls, and I don't mean guys in that word. Just it's a general thing that I've said. I mean, I'm a millennial, so whatever on that front. But thank you for supporting the show. I really do appreciate it. Like, this is not, when it comes to these types of shows on a team this bad, it's really hard to stay interested. Some of my best friends who listen to the show, Nick, for years have struggled and they've dropped off this year, and they still download and they still hit like, they still do the things to support the show, but they don't listen, and I don't blame them. But you guys here listening right now are still listening to this. And so we're going to try to give you good shows as we close out the season. Clearly, obviously, we've turned the page toward the future and we're excited for talk of the future, but we do still have to do a job, and that's to wrap up this season and see if we can find anything. And so one major focus of today's show that Nick and I wanted to get through is Evan Neal and an individual assessment of his performance. We're going to run some tape, a discussion of his future. Is this a salvageable asset for the Giants at any position, tackle or guard? We're also going to talk the quarterback play in this game, because that's what we do on this show. We watch the tape, we watch all 22, we understand the importance of the quarterback position, we understand how much it means in wins and losses, and we get to see two quarterbacks face off against each other. And I thought there were definitely clear and stark differences, at least when I went back and watched the tape, Nick, between Penix and Locke. Because I'll be quite honest with you and the listeners, I was watching very passively on the broadcast on Sunday, with a lot of eye on red zone and my fantasy matchups. When you watch the tape, you can really see what these quarterbacks are looking at from the end zone angle, what's actually developing from the sideline angle. And so you get to really understand what goes through their thought process and then where they're putting the football. So I want to talk about those two things for sure, and then anything else that we can touch on, Nick. But let's start this discussion with an Evan Neal. Let's start with Evan Neal and where we're at with him.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll bring up some Evan Neal plays. I'm just going to run through them. He'll have a red circle around him, big number 73. Look, since he's returned to the starting lineup in week 10, I think it's safe to say he hasn't played as poorly as the Evan Neal we've seen in previous years. Like this, I don't want to say it's a different iteration of Evan Neal, but I feel like he's a little bit more dialed in, and that's at tackle. With that said, I've been clear my evaluation of Evan Neal. I don't think he is an NFL tackle. I think everything needs to be perfect for Evan Neal to have success at a tackle in the NFL. And that's having a tight end help him, a running back help him. He needs to be precise with how he attacks, with how he frames his blocks, with all of that. And I just think that's too much for a player who is subpar explosively and is not necessarily the most fleet of foot, if we're going to be kind. But can Evan Neal play offensive guard? We've talked about this for how freaking long now, Dan, and we have not seen it yet. He started at tackle, at right tackle for the Giants now for the last 5 or 6 games. Again, hasn't been that bad. But I want to start seeing this guy inside, because I think if we put him inside, it will mask all the limitations that he really struggles with. Those limitations that end up going viral around Twitter, Warren Sharp tweeting it out. And one of them was in this game on that cut block attempt where he got hit by the 4 technique, fell off balance. He's already an unsteady player. Of course, he's going to fall off balance. And that was supposed to be a screen pass to Tyrone Tracy Jr. from a split back with Wandale Robinson in motion anyways. And Locke decided to go free access to Malik Neighbors on the backside, and the entire right side of the line of scrimmage just fell apart. You'll see that in this reel if you're watching on YouTube eventually. But I just want to, this isn't me breaking any news or anything. It's just as simple as this, Dan. Why are the Giants not trying this guy out at guard at this point? Is it just because the Giants have no other tackles? That's what it has to be, which is a real indictment on Joshua Ezeudu, who was playing the big tackle in this game. That's a real indictment if that's the reason why, because they seem reluctant to put him, Josh Ezeudu that is, at guard. They don't want to put Evan Neal at guard. One of those two guys, or neither of those two guys, neither of those two players, Dan, can have success, I think, at a stable and consistent rate at tackle. So why not try them at guard when both of them have quality, at least college tape in a Power 5 conference at guard? That does not make sense to me.
It's interesting, Nick, because I think if we take them at their word, essentially they told us, look, he was so far behind from an off-season schedule standpoint that we just want to train him at one position because we have such a long way to go. And ultimately, he did get his opportunity later into the season after training at that right tackle position, which is where he started his career with the Giants, and it's the only place we've seen him. But this past week, the Giants have been dealing with a lot of injuries on the interior offensive line, as we all saw with John Runyon. And there's actually some reps that he finally got at guard. They were, I think it was Duggan or Art or one of the beats that I follow, Nick, tweeted about it this week that Neal was finally taking some reps in practice at the guard position. So I do wonder if they are going to, because look, if we all know this, Nick, if we want to have this team take a jump that they need to take, they're going to have to start thinking outside the box in some regard. And they're going to have to start maximizing assets like an Evan Neal, because you have to at least see if he can be a difference maker at guard, or at least an average to above average player that you can consistently count on at the guard position. Because at this point, he's not going to be that at tackle. You discussed it well, the limitations from the explosion standpoint, from the fleet of feet standpoint, from the balance standpoint. That's the one that I'm not so sold will get fixed at guard. But the other limitations that you discussed, I think will at least be muted or minimized at the guard position. And he still is a load moving forward. And he still has moments in the run game that make me think, that's above average. That's at least average or above average. And those are the things that I want to see at the guard position. It's not going to be just like what happened with the Eagles and Mekhi Becton and Stoutland, because he has so much around him, Mekhi Becton, that helps him play better football. But it could be something like that, and the Giants need to at least see if that's possible.
100%. Now, I posted a video of Evan Neal pancake blocking Lorenzo Carter. It was a really nice block. But one of the reasons why Evan Neal is a liability, even as a run blocker sometimes, is when he goes up against these adaptive edge rushers who understand how Evan Neal has success, understands how Evan Neal attacks. This happens. If you're watching on YouTube, you're going to have Evan Neal trying to get out and block number 55. And Evan Neal is going to explode. He's going to take one large step out towards number 55, and he's going to lean. Look how far Evan Neal's chest is over his toes. This leads to balance if the defender reacts the way number 55 reacted on this play. Watch. He's just going to absorb the contact. You still see chest is pointing directly at the deck. His feet, Evan Neal's feet, way behind him, behind his ass even. And 55 is just going to step back and just pull him to the ground. It's just going to use the natural momentum of being in that position against Evan Neal. And that's exactly what this edge rusher does. And now Evan Neal is eliminated, and 55 is exactly where he's supposed to be. Numbers, right to Tyrone Tracy Jr. Tyrone Tracy Jr. has to jump inside, and he ends up just running into a bunch of different players, tackle for a loss. It's plays like this that hurt me with Evan Neal, because I see what he can do on these down blocks. I see what he can do when the edge rusher does not adapt the way 55 does on this play. But the thing is, a lot of these edge rushers are aware that Evan Neal has these balance issues. We saw these balance issues from Evan Neal in college. So when Evan Neal does this, you just step back, pull him to the deck, push, pull. That's simple. And this is something we see like 3-4 times a game, even in the run game with Evan Neal. That can be exploited at offensive guard. But again, I think the biggest problem with Evan Neal isn't just that. He can be an asset as a run blocker. The biggest problem with Evan Neal by far is his inability to frame and judge those speed rushes high side up the arc, and his inability to stop those, because he's not explosive. He's not the most fluid as an athlete, and he has slower feet. So if you put him inside, all of that will be disguised. All of that will be hidden by the center and by the tackle who will be playing next to him. And that's the argument for moving him inside. And I still think the path as an offensive guard to contact is so much shorter. So there won't be as much leaning, hopefully, right? He won't be having to kick out too frequently to handle a Y9 like we just saw, right? It will be somebody who is a little bit more closer to him, maybe a 3-tech or a 4-eye shade or something like that. So I'll run through more of these plays, but that's just one takeaway from Evan Neal as a run blocker. Again, can be an asset, but there's still liabilities and things that can be exploited, and we've seen that a lot throughout his career here with the Giants.
And it's a fair evaluation, and I think ultimately it comes down to, will the Giants make that move this offseason? Will they have the ability to? They should, on paper, right? Jermaine Luminor under contract should be back as the starting right tackle. Andrew Thomas should be healthy and ready to go for the season at left tackle. So then it just becomes, do you want to make Neal your swing tackle like you had to have, or I guess he was the third tackle behind Azudu? Or do you want to go out in free agency and find someone who can play swing tackle? Now, that's a lot easier said than done. There just really aren't a lot of options in free agency that are competent enough to play swing tackle and will sign a contract to play swing tackle. Because if they're competent enough to play tackle at the NFL level, they're starting somewhere. So it ultimately just comes down to the Giants doing a better job of developing and drafting tackle prospects. And that has to start in this draft, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, dude. And again, those watching on YouTube right now, this is not terrible tape from Evan Neal. Like, there's a lot of stuff trending on Twitter about how terrible Evan Neal is because of that missed cut block, which was not a great look by Evan Neal. It was poor technique by Evan Neal, but it was also a backside designed cut block off of what was supposed to be a screen pass that was not thrown by Drew Lock because he decided to take the free access because Wan'Dale Robinson cleared out the other defender, giving Malik Neighbors that one-on-one matchup. The blocking was not there on the right side, and nor am I excusing Evan Neal, but this isn't terrible tape when you go through this. Like, there are some positive takeaways to glean from what Evan Neal did at offensive tackle. But I think if you put up a quality edge rusher against Evan Neal and have that edge rusher go up against Evan Neal 40, 50 times a game, that guy's going to win a lot. And you're going to need to allocate a lot of resources towards whatever side Evan Neal is on. And I just think that really caps the upside and limits the upside of your offense.
And that's an issue within its own self right there for the Giants for sure as they move forward and try to plan out the building of this offensive line. Other players that maybe we can get to before touching on some quarterback play from both sides of the football. Tyrone Tracy in this one had a really phenomenal touchdown catch. Thought he looked overall pretty explosive throughout the game. Malik Neighbors, don't think it's going to work out between Neighbors and Locke this season. There's just no rapport there. It is one thing, Nick. Like, it's been a rough season, but if you do watch back on the pick six and the fumble six, I think was that also called a pick six? It might have been.
I think it was a pick six.
Yeah. Neighbors really, the first pick six, Neighbors really didn't make any effort at all to tackle and chase down that defender. And he was ahead of him because Neighbors ran a route short of, I believe it was Wan'Dale was targeted on that, short of him, had a step on the defender who's running back for the pick six. It is what it is at this point. Like, I'm not going to rule out any kind of prospect for that, but it's not great to see. It's those plays, it's those moments, and some of just like the missed opportunities on the offense side of the ball where you see the body language after the snap and you just see just how frustrated these skill position players are for the Giants right now.
So frustrated. And Drew Lock missed so many opportunities in this game. You just saw one. If you're watching on YouTube, I was just highlighting, and he throws it to Malik Neighbors. Again, you want to target Malik Neighbors a lot. I get it, but it's triple coverage. You have Wan'Dale Robinson right underneath escaping a linebacker. If Wan'Dale Robinson catches this football, he's walking into the end zone for a touchdown. And Lock had tunnel vision and threw it to Neighbors. Look at Neighbors at this point.
Now, tunnel vision is a very good way in general to just describe Lock.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's not.
This was his worst film of the year for me by a wide margin. I thought he was just unbelievably bad in this game.
Yeah, there were a lot of missed opportunities early too, where you have Malik Neighbors streaking up the seam with a step, cover two defense, and you're like, yo, that football needs to come out.
His eyes just lock. They just lock, and he's so slow to get. No pun intended.
I know,
it's almost amazing to me how bad Drew Lock truly is. In a lot of ways, because he did start a couple games for the Hawks last year and looked semi-competent. He comes to the Giants and it's like you're watching someone who's never played the position before. And I say that, Nick, only because I talked about to you before the show, but I juxtaposed it to what I saw on the other side of the ball with Michael Penix. And we'll talk about Penix in a little because I have some thoughts on him long term. But just the way that you watch, when you watch from that end zone angle and you watch how they are post snap, how quick do they get in their drop? How quick do they snap their head around? Are they using their eyes to manipulate the defense? Penix looked like the 5 years in the league guy, right? Who was not making his first start. Drew Lock looked like the guy making the first start of his whole career in the NFL with the way that he uses his eyes post snap and just the tunnel vision that you said that he gets into. It's just amazing to me how poorly he processes the field post snap. It's unplayably bad in my mind, at least when you can't move off reads fast, like, and go through progressions, in addition to being just off target a lot, like he is. It's just, I don't get it with him. I'm not sold that he belongs in the NFL personally.
No, it's just all physical traits with Drew Lock.
I think
he's probably a really great locker room guy to have. I think he understands the play. I think he understands everything that he's supposed to understand. And again, this is conjecture. But this is just my take on him. But when the bullets are flying, can he does he have the ability, the wherewithal to slow the game down and master the play speed? And he does not. Everything is moving way too quick for Drew Lock. And if that first read is not there from pre to post, once it's confirmed, he panics and he bails. And I look at Brian Daboll and I say, look, man, I think Brian Daboll is doing the best he can with the situation that he has, with the context that he has to endure. And you saw a lot of these quick little screens, just get the football out of Drew Lock's hands as fast as possible to Wan'Dale Robinson, to Tyrone Tracy Jr., to Malik Neighbors. A lot of misdirection plays where I think there's one right here where you fake pitch, get the defense going in one direction and then roll out in another direction. You see there's really no one open, but Drew Lock delivers a nice pass here. Daniel Bellinger, hands catch, secures it through contact. This is on a third down, a very important play. There's a lot of play designs like that. And if you watch the tape, you see guys who are open downfield. And that's on Brian Daboll. That's a good job. It's just he does not have the quarterback, nor does he really even have the offensive line to fully maximize and fully take advantage of the open receivers. And that happens every now and again, but it's so consistent with all of these quarterbacks. I mean, we used to gripe and bitch and moan about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is so much better than Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito. But that's not to say he's a $40 million quarterback. Obviously, Daniel Jones was very reluctant to target down the football field, but he could at least keep an offense on script. Whereas like Locked, this guy's eyes are everywhere. He has no plan of attack whatsoever. And it's just evident just turning on the tape. And it sucks that we have to watch this. Now, Drew Lock hurt his shoulder and he's getting an MRI. So we might see Tim Boyle. And honestly, just off the half of a game we've seen from Tim Boyle's got to be a better option than Lock, right?
He is, and he gives them a better chance to win the game, which I'm just going to be quite frank and blunt about. I won't be rooting. I don't want Boyle to play. I want it to be DeVito just because they have a better chance to lose with DeVito. I'd be pretty devastated if they blow it at this point and win that Eagles game.
If they win either of those games, that's devastating.
It's just not good, and it's just not worth nothing at this point. And I don't need to see development of the receiver. I need the season to be over with and them to have the first pick. But it's just interesting to me, Nick, because the two times this team has really, in our lifetime, has really bottomed out. I tweeted about this yesterday. To me, this was like the clear-cut, definitive. They are the worst team in the NFL, and it's nothing close. Like when you just get these games like this against the Falcons, who looked horrible in the first quarter, and it's a blowout 34-7, and the Bucs and all those types of games. The Raiders are at least fighting. The Jags are fighting. They're in games. They come down to the wire. So the Giants are the worst team in the NFL. And it's happened twice for us now, Nick. It happened now, and it happened in 2021. And what's the common denominator here? It's not hard to see. And it tells a story, this common denominator. It's that they had unpassable, unplayable, and unrealistic quarterback play in those games. Jake Fromm and Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito. Like, that's the difference here, boys and girls. Like, when you have unplayable quarterbacks who don't belong in the NFL as starters, you're going to have you're the worst team in the NFL. It happened with Fromm. It's happening again with Locke. It happened at the moments this year with DeVito. Like, it's not hard to see. And it just goes to show that you really got to be cognizant. You have to be attacking. You have to be aggressive. You have to be aware. You have to be prioritizing your quarterback room at all times of your general manager and head coach tenure. You cannot say, we'll pass it off to next year. You cannot say, let's worry about this 2 years down the line. You cannot enter a year with a quarterback room like this because there's no options at that point. And you run out of options and there's no one developing and there's just no talent and there's no startable players. And you have to do everything in your power. You have to put away signing Runyon, signing Illuminor, all these guys, honestly, to prioritize that position if you want to win. If you don't want to win and you want to play, you want to say, okay, it's partially a rebuilding year. We know we're kind of at the end of this Jones thing. We'll see what happens. We'll let him have one more chance. Fine, if that was their plan all along. But winning is not about fixing your O-line and doing all this. You have to have passable quarterback play. You can't have this or you lose. It happened with Fromm. It's happening again now. I'm watching it before my eyes, Nick, and I'm understanding how much they're mattering in playable versus unplayable offense.
And that's the dereliction of duty, right? From Joe Shane.
Yeah.
I was on the Fan last night with Lori Rubinson, and we were talking a lot about this, and we've discussed it too, Dan, you and I, Dan. Russell Wilson was that life preserver. He was right there for you. You could have brought him in, didn't work out. There was Jameis. There were a lot of other quarterbacks that seemed to be much better options than Drew Lock. And you settled on Drew Lock, and you had the built-in excuse. And this is what really frustrates me. You had the built-in excuse, Dan, of Daniel Jones recovering from a torn ACL. So you're going to be like, yeah, we had to sign him. Look, we didn't know if there was going to be a setback, Daniel, if you were just so concerned about his fragile feelings. You didn't want to hurt his feelings. So you could have sold that to Daniel Jones and been like, look, you're recovering from a torn ACL. We need to ensure that our quarterback room room is up par if you do not get healthy. That makes sense. That's not disrespectful, Daniel Jones. That is just smart business. And they decided to forego that. They decided not to do that while also still buying into the season. And here we are with the worst quarterback room and we're the laughing stock of the league. And we're now going to sit here and have the entire discussion on should we let Joe Shane pick the quarterback of the future at number one when he has dropped the ball so drastically when it comes to this position group. I don't know, dude.
That's the problem that a lot of we're
That's a
running
huge
into.
problem.
And it's a total evaluation issue, right? Because it's like, yes, we're not stupid here, Nick and I. We're not like this team is just a quarterback away. We
No.
understand there's all sorts of problems, and we're not blaming Jones for how bad they've been throughout the years. And we even just said he was more competent. What we're saying is though that it is the difference. Like, watch this team in 2021 and now, where they're the clear worst in the NFL. It's literally because they don't have passable quarterback play. They don't have anyone who could start and keep an offense on script. It's not because they have injuries on the O-line. It's not because of all the other things. That's part of it for sure. But like, if you had passable quarterback play, it would be not the worst team in the NFL. They'd be a team that can win some games occasionally and compete in games. But when you get this, you can't move it. So you have to prioritize that room. And the part of the issue goes back, dude. And then we're not going to rehash it, but like when you treat Tyrod Taylor the way they treated him, he doesn't want to resign. And then you lose him out of their building. And like, you could have just had him back if you just treated him well along the way. You know, you gave him a real chance to compete with Jones in 2022. You said after last year, look, Tyrod, we look back on the tape. Your tape was clearly better than Jones's. You're going to get a real shot to start this year in camp. And Jones is hurt. So you can start as the starter. Like, there were so many options for them to do it. You mentioned Russell or Jameis. And it's just like they took none of those options, Nick. And instead they just did this. And now they're reaping what they sow. Like, when you have Locke and these guys, you can't compete, and you're losing 34-7 against a middling at best Falcons team, starting a rookie quarterback who's had no reps all year with his guys.
And you want to know what sucks too? We used to look and praise Joe Shane and Brian Dable for starting the best player because they did that. Right. With David Sills over Kenny Golladay, which is crazy to say, right? Like, crazy to sit here and say David Sills.
He was better than Golladay somehow.
But he was a better fit for what they wanted to do, and Kenny Golladay was getting paid a lot of money. And we praised them back in 2022, rightfully so. But they didn't do that with Tyrod Taylor. They didn't do that with Daniel Jones. And I can understand the argument against it. Look, you just declined Daniel Jones' fifth-year option. Give him an opportunity. See. And then he ended up going to the playoffs and winning a playoff game. But then when 2023 comes around, maybe even Tyrod could just be like, yeah, we had this in 2022. That's fine. 2023 comes around. Tyrod gets injured. Tommy DeVito comes in, football game. Tyrod comes back off the IR. And you say, nah, fuck you, Tyrod Taylor. We're going to roll with Cutlets. And that's what really did not sit well. And looking back on it, it's so obvious to tell. Tommy DeVito struggles against Philadelphia. Tyrod comes in. They start assembling offense, and then they finish the year strong. They end up competing with the Rams, almost beating the Rams. Rams escape MetLife with a victory against a bad New York Giants team. And then the Giants go and they beat the shit out of the Philadelphia Eagles, something that they never do. They never beat the shit out of the Philadelphia Eagles. And you have Tyrod Taylor throwing these 80-yard touchdown passes in back-to-back games. Man, Tyrod Taylor was the number one quarterback in big-time throw percentage in the entire season. Whereas Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito were like the two last, I think. Two of the three.
And he was eighth best in clean pocket EPA, which takes out all the pressure plays from the bad O-line. Jones was 42nd. DeVito was 43rd.
So if I'm Tyrod Taylor, I'm looking at that situation, and you have all the other awkward shit going on in the locker room at the time with Wink Martindale, the defense, the offense, the Wilkins brothers, all this weird stuff. It's like, why would I want to be affiliated with that situation, especially after the 2023 season? He might have been able to excuse it after 2022 since they were successful. They lost in 2023, and then he finished the year strong and was like, yeah, I am that guy, actually. I am that guy, and I deserve that chance, but I'm not going to give you another one.
Right. He's not going to give them another chance. They didn't do right by him. Why would he do right by them? And that's kind of the situation they found themselves in. Another decision this year at quarterback that rubbed some teammates the wrong way, right? Getting rid of Jones. Some of them just said, F it. We don't care about the injury guarantee, which, again, I don't take the side of the players there. The Giants at 2-8 would have been one of the dumbest teams in the NFL to play Daniel Jones. He's already had 2 season-ending injuries. If you get him another one, you're literally looked at as the dumbest team ever if you have to take a $25 million dead cap hit because you played him in a 2-8 season. So it's not their fault, but from the player's standpoint, it's like, we've been through this shit before, and we've seen all these weird decisions you guys are making at quarterback, and it's hard to just continue to get behind them. We saw what happened with Tyrod and Tommy, and now we're seeing you guys say again, we're going back to Tommy, and it's like, why are we going back to Tommy? Why are we going back to this UDFA who's not a starting talent in the NFL?
Dude, I wish I had the Godfather theme as a drop right now. Because I would have played the Godfather theme right there. Why are we going to Tommy? And then I would have overlaid the picture of his freaking agent over the top of us talking. And that would have been gold, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, missed opportunity there. But you're right, man. And these players, they all have feelings. They all view Daniel Jones as the leader of this team. They did not like the way he was treated at the tail end. And we can feel one way or another about that. And I think the fans are completely entitled to feeling one way or another about that. But the reality of the situation is I just look at this locker room and I don't know if it's not just a powder keg ready to explode. Or
it feels like that, right, Nick? It really doesn't feel good.
It does not feel good. It does not feel good at all, especially with certain players on the roster, certain players who are going to be around for the long haul, a la a Malik Neighbors. Like Malik Neighbors is so like he's trying his ass off. And you can see when he's running routes, he's not dogging it. He's not like, oh, no. He is running hard. Dude. He is getting open. He is putting 100% of the effort out there. But after the play, when the ball doesn't come his way, I'm not saying he's Jeremy Shockey, but he looks dejected. He looks frustrated and he looks pissed off. Want to know what's great for the holidays? A nice toasty set of chestnuts, preferably not roasting on an open fire, but existing in a comfortable, orderly condition. Skims provides said comfort so you can jingle all the way. Look, guys, we all hate the ride up, that cramped feeling of unforgiving underwear that constantly has you adjusting your little helpers. We deserve better than that. Skims takes care of us, and they're a perfect stocking stuffer for Christmas. They have multiple options for you: stretch, cotton, and if you shop Skims Men's at skims.com, let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. Also available at skims.com. Don't let your little friends down. Go and get yourself a pair of Skims. You'll thank me later. It's the holiday season, and we have Manscaped, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver here for you. Look, if you want the best shave, if you want to look your best to the nines for the holidays, you got to get the Chairman Pro from Manscaped. If you need to shave a 5 o'clock shadow, a 5-day long growth of your beard, the Chairman Pro has you covered. If you head on over to manscaped.com right now and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code BIGBLUE for 20% off, you'll get free shipping as well. So head on over to Manscaped and do just that. The code is BIGBLUE. Get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get that 20% off plus free shipping with the code BIGBLUE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code BIGBLUE at manscaped.com.
Would love for him not to look that way on tape.
Body language is a big thing. But again, this is a player who's acting that way because they're so bad and because of they're losing. It's not in a winning situation. This is not happening when the Giants are sitting there winning football games. They're a mess. They're disgustingly bad.
And you think of it from like Neighbor's standpoint, it's like he's probably watching the NFL all day, all week, like anyone else, and seeing opportunities like the one Boyle gave him 2 weeks ago, where it's just, pressure, get the ball out fast, throw it toward the pylon, and let me make a play because I am that man. I am that guy that can make a play. And then it's like, why am I going a full season and I can get it one time with Tim Boyle, a guy you didn't even start the season with in your quarterback room? Like, what is this? This is not acceptable. This is not passable quarterback play.
And not even just that. Think about it from his personal life. Brian Thomas is killing it right now in Jacksonville. Jacksonville sucks, but Brian Thomas is catching like 80-yard touchdown bombs from Mac Jones. And then Jane Daniels is going to win Rookie of the Year, and that is his best friend. Jane Daniels completely turned around the Washington Commanders franchise. And Malik Neighbors is on a 2-win team who has not won at home yet. A 2-win team who is on a 10 consecutive losing streak. Like, this is a bad situation. And this kid has never went through this. I can't imagine. You know what I'm saying? And we saw that on Hard Knocks too.
Bad as it could have gone for him. There was before the draft, they asked him like, if you get drafted by the Giants, it was like way early in March, like, what are you gonna do? And he's like, I guess they'll figure out their quarterback situation. But like, like it wasn't. It's like a hope that they'll figure out their quarterback situation, but I don't think anyone could have expected it to be this bad, where they're the worst team in the NFL. You would have expected, because even for players like this, Nick, that's the thing. For us as fans, we, or at least I don't want to speak for you, but I think we've discussed this enough and hashed it out enough that we know that reality of the situation is if you lose these games 34-7 or 34-31, it's not going to make much of a difference long term. I at least don't think it's going to make it does because it means your roster is better, but the
Yeah.
actual loss being closer doesn't help you in the long run. But for the players in the moment, it makes such a difference. Like if Neighbors was just in these games that were competitive and they lose here, they lose there, maybe they win one or two, it just makes such a difference for them specifically, and their joy and their I guess what's the word, like being engaged in this. And it sucks for us to
Well,
say that
their
because like
competitive nature.
yeah, it's a competitive thing, right? Like if you're in that's a good way. So like on the I want to finish this by saying like on the outside, it's like that they should always be engaged. They should always, they're professionals. They're getting paid to do this. But any of us who have played a sport knows that when we're getting blown out in something, we're definitely not as engaged as when we're in a close battle in any of the competition we've ever done. And we are then locked in because it's a close game. Like it's human nature.
Look at this podcast, for instance,
Yeah.
right? Like, look, Dan and I are engaged. We watched all the all 22. We're trying to derive joy from doing that. But if the Giants were competing for the playoffs right now, we would be probably doing a podcast a day. It would be so much more fun, but we're dejected because the team is taking a shit on us, and we don't want to be shit on. We're not toilet. We're not porcelain. We don't want to be flushed. We don't want any of that. We want good quality football, competitive football through an entire season. And we rarely ever receive that with this current New York Giants team. Now just extrapolate that onto the actual athletes out there. Of course, they're out there playing, they're playing their asses off, but they're dejected because they're being embarrassed. And nobody wants to be embarrassed, especially not when you are an alpha male at the top of the athletic world, dude. You're an NFL player. You're like a 1% of the 1%, and you are just embarrassed in your own field. Of course, that is going to you're going to reflect negatively on that. How could you not? That's everything that you do. Everything that you train for your entire life is to win Super Bowls, is to win football games. And when you can't win because you're mediocre, I mean, finger pointing can start happening. We haven't seen too much of that, which is a good thing, but you're going to start being very frustrated. And that's going to be visible after a play when you're wide open, when you do your job to get wide open and the football just doesn't come your way because the quarterback can't see the field.
Yeah, because as he said throughout the year to us in the post-game pressers, I did my job. I got open. Watch the tape. I know. And look,
what you don't love to hear, what you don't
love to hear it. No. But he's his attitude isn't like ideal. Like, we're not like loving this situation, but like
I hope we're not coming off that way either. But
we're not coming off that way at all. It's just like so far down the list of my problems with this team that I just have a hard time putting too much into caring about that one specific.
But we knew we also knew though that this was something that could happen with Malik Neighbors. Because when the argument was Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze, you and I, we were both like, Malik Neighbors is a much better player than Rome Odunze. But when things go shitty, which they could, and they did, you'd much rather have Rome Odunze as that teammate than a Malik Neighbors, because Malik Neighbors might be a little bit more vocal and a little bit more outspoken about the mediocrity. And that's manifesting right now. But again, Malik Neighbors is a much, I would say, better player, a much better asset than a player like Rome Odunze.
I'm definitely happy they went Neighbors. Now, the funny conversation long term will be Neighbors or Brian Thomas, because Thomas has far exceeded expectations for what I had of him in year one. Like just going by his LSU tape versus his Jaguars tape. We talk about him literally every week on Beyond the Box, to the point where it's become a running joke that he's literally a feature of every episode and we can't stop talking about him. But like Jacob breaks it down every week. The numbers are insane. And then the film is just crazy. He's become like all the things that people, it's one of those prospects, Nick, that we always talk about during draft season, where it's like, it's like they say this is a knock, this is a concern on Brian Thomas, but it's really just that he didn't really do it at LSU. And now that he's doing it for the Jaguars, it's like, oh, he kind of always, we should have known he always kind of could do this, right? Like he's 6'4", runs a 4.33 or whatever he ran, and he's loose. Like he can move. He can. It's
the loose aspect of it, because there are 6'4" like fast guys who just can't. Like Brian Thomas can turn, bro.
He can turn. He's loose. Like he could end up being better than Neighbors, which is crazy to think about. It's definitely in the realm of possibilities.
I mean, it seems like most classes these days are sick receiver.
How about Marvin Harrison Jr.? That's the one we haven't even talked about. That one's getting ugly.
That one's down there. Very ugly down there.
Run the 40.
I also, man, we were big fans of Drew Petzing, and I think rightfully so after last season. I don't like this year. It's weird. Like that, their offense, like I get frustrated watching it. And I haven't gone through the all 22, so I could be speaking out of my rear end right now. Dan, maybe you've seen more than me.
I've seen a lot. They're all 22.
How is it? Because it seems just stagnant at times. Like there's just nothing going on for
They
like
run the
a
same
quarter.
offense all the time, and it's so reliant on just like boot action to McBride, just like McBride crossing and off of like a block and release. But man, I watch it and I'm like, yeah, I could get on Drew, but for me, it's like I like this guy coming out, but I don't like him as much the more I watch this film. It's Kyler, dude. It's just like when you're that kind of quarterback, he's still making sick Kyler plays out of structure.
He'll always do
That's
that.
what
Yeah.
he's always going to be able to do, and that offers you something that you can win games that way.
Yeah.
But in structure as a quarterback, I just don't love Kyler as an in structure quarterback. Like keeping a passing game in rhythm and on time, making those throws outside the numbers, making those in breakers. Like it's just it's the height, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it is with this guy, but when I watch their tape, I think they are a little bit limited schematically by what he offers as a quarterback.
That's unfortunate. Yeah. That 2019 quarterback class. Whoo, let's go back, baby.
Horrible. Yeah. My God.
It's not good. Here, I got some plays that we can run through if you want.
Yeah.
Get into this game film for the listeners who care about the game film. This first play that I have up is the first 3rd and 1. It was a conversion by the New York Giants, a fake toss rollout to the opposite direction and a contested catch for Daniel Bellinger coming from the backside. I like how the Giants will motion Wan'Dale Robinson, bring him tight, then release him out. That's going to flare out and clear the path for Daniel Bellinger. So that is a smart device used by Brian Daboll when he's constructing this play. You're going to roll. You're going to get the defense first off with this fake toss flowing to the boundary side. Everyone flows that way. And now you're going to have Daniel Bellinger coming across the field with Wan'Dale Robinson occupying both those underneath defenders and expanding them laterally. And now you have a throwing window to Daniel Bellinger. The thing is, the Falcons play it pretty well. He's right on Daniel Bellinger's hip, but Bellinger has strong hands and he's very tough at the catch point, makes that catch, converts a first down. Good play by Locke, one of his few in this game.
Yeah. Excellent breakdown there. Good
Thanks.
conversion here.
This is the type of offense you need to run when you have a limited quarterback, right? Especially one who can move a little bit. So you get him open.
He throws better off platform like this anyway.
This could have been a penalty for roughing the passer, probably. But I am never, here, I want to make this clear. Hold on. I am never going to say that the offense deserves a roughing the passer penalty. I'm just saying it could have been because the defense, it is impossible to play defense in the NFL these days. And it frustrates me. Some of these hits, dude, that I see that people like lose their minds over and they're like, oh my God, that is the worst thing in the world. Oh, I'm like, dude, like the defender has like a millisecond to make a decision or he's getting trucked by like a 230-pound quarterback. Like
the ones that bother me the most
swung so far to the offense. It's freaking frustrating, dude.
The ones that bother me the most are like the one, and thank God they picked it up in the Washington Eagles game because I was so happy to see the Eagles lose. But they didn't pick it up in the Denver Chargers game. It was a little different looking, but like those ones where you could clearly see the defender is at that point where he's going full speed, but he's like, oh no, now I'm a defender in 2024. That means I gotta freely just stop everything at the millisecond, do everything I can to avoid it. And then you see them avoid it, but it's like in the direction of the quarterback, and it's like flag. He was going toward the head. It's like he's not going toward the head. He's like doing everything he can to avoid this freaking contact. No. He may make a little contact, but like, dear God, like, can we not flag that? Like, ruin a game because a defender's coming full speed? Like, and then I see other times like Mahomes' first touchdown run. I don't know if you're watching that game. I assume you were because you're a sicko like me and you watch all football.
I do.
Like that first touchdown run was such a sad, clear example as he made his way toward the end zone of like what the game has changed to. Like, you know, back in the day, dude, those defenders in the goal line are driving on Mahomes and cracking.
Not even that long ago, bro.
What?
Not even that long ago.
Not even that long ago. They're cracking him, but they're like kind of dilly-dallying away, like as he like goes into the end zone. They make contact as he crosses the goal line, but it's like such a like scared contact that they have to make with the quarterbacks. And it is what it is, though, because the NFL is such a horrific quarterback shortage that they just need to keep these guys healthy.
Yeah, no, I get it from that standpoint. But could you imagine explaining to somebody who has never played football, playing like defensive back or playing defense? It's like, oh, so I get to tackle the guy. It's like, well, not really. You can't hit him high. You can't really hit him low. You can't really do anything. You kind of just got to like hug them and fall to the ground. But if you do fall on the back of their calves, that's a penalty too. It's like they're so hamstrung playing defense in the NFL. It's frustrating. I'm sorry. I had to get that out. That's something I've been holding in for
a
very long time. Been very constipated to get that one out, but now it's out. Time to wipe. Let's move on. Okay. we have this little creative inside handoff to Darius Slayton, who was aligned basically as an H-back behind Daniel Bellinger and Wan'Dale Robinson, who were all condensed. Like this play design, we used to see this kind of stuff from Daniel Jones a lot. You pull, it's like a dart type play. You pull Jermaine Illuminor to the front side. Evan Neal does a really good job clearing out that 4 technique or that 3 technique. But 55 does just a really good job getting in position to make this tackle. Greg Van Roten just gets held up just long enough. Can't really get up to 55. That's right before the touchdown pass, which we're about to watch, Dan. It's a great play by Tyrone Tracy Jr. to understand what Drew Lock is doing and to know that Drew Lock's going to roll that way. And he just absolutely uncovers from the defense. That's just smart. Again, former wide receiver. That's a tough catch too.
That's a really tough catch.
Got to get both feet in bounds. Dude, that's Lock's first touchdown pass to a Giants receiver this year. He has 2 to Falcons defenders and 1 to a Cowboys defender. I don't think he has another touchdown pass.
I don't think I ever could have seen. Now, obviously, I want to make it clear, part of this is the infrastructure of the Giants currently, the O-line, whatever's going on. But and the lack of reps, whatever you want to blame it on. But I just couldn't see Locke being this bad coming based on his previous stops. I thought he'd be a little bit, not a little bit, I thought he'd be a lot more passable. It honestly, watching this tape, it was crazy to see how slow it's taken him to come along in this offense.
I thought it was going to be a little bit better than this as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't thrilled with the signing, but it was $5 million a year. So I was like, it's okay. He looked solid with the Seahawks. We knew what he was with Denver. He was immature. Sure. He seems like a much more mature man at this point, but being a little bit more mature in yourself does not translate to being good at playing football. Yeah. It seems like it's way too fast for him. And I've said this so many times on the podcast, not to beat this dead horse, but when I was at training camp, I was surprised by how bad he was, especially when it came to my first read's not there. I'm just going to run, and you're not getting hit in training camp. So it just seemed like every second team rep was just him running and picking up 6 yards, and then getting
that a lot too. Yeah, there was a play I put up on Twitter today. I don't know if you saw it, Nick, but it was crazy. Running back was wide open, would have been a 25-yard gain, if not more. And Locke's just at one point stopped in the pocket, found his landmark. Nobody's around him, and he doesn't see anything. There's also an over route that he could hit, and he just takes a sack, or he walks into a sack. It's tough.
Dude, we used to, and rightfully so. Again, this isn't us saying, "Oh, Daniel Jones is the best," but Daniel Jones has slow eyes. Daniel Jones's eyes are significantly faster than Drew Lock. That's how bad Drew Lock is.
That's crazy, but true.
It's unfortunate, man. I like this play design. This is something that Brian Daboll has been running a lot recently. Just slants underneath 2 vertical releases. You're going to have Wan'Dale Robinson as the number 1, which should be a tell to the defense, because when the hell is Wan'Dale Robinson the number 1 receiver on the outside 3-by-1 set? You have Wan'Dale Robinson outside the numbers, so you're just going to run vertical with Slayton, or vertical with Malik Neighbors. That's the number 2 and the number 3. And then Wan'Dale, it's going to create a pick. It's going to force number 20, Alford, over the top of the release from Malik Neighbors. And then you have that natural space created, a legal rub route. Is it weird, Dan, that every time Wan'Dale Robinson gets tackled, it feels like he gets pinballed around before he goes down? This guy is wild for a smaller dude, is wildly difficult to tackle.
It's that low center of gravity that we've talked about before in the past.
It's that low
profiles. It makes a difference.
That low center of gravity, that low base. Boom, I'm going to pinball. He falls there, but there were a few plays like that on tape. All right. Now, this is the pick 6 to Jesse Bates, where Drew Lock.
This is the Neighbors. I was talking about just watching one here.
Yeah.
He's just done. He's not going to chase that thing down.
No. And I don't think he's going to catch him. Right when the interception happens.
Pick 6, right here.
Yeah, you're right.
Get him easily. He's faster at that point.
He takes a step back, goes, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? You threw it there."
Fakes a run. Yeah, fakes like he's going to go after it. It is what it is. Again, this is way down my list of concerns. I don't think any of this matters in a real season. I think he might even be chasing this down in a real season, to be honest with you. I really do believe the Giants are a 9-5. If they have 5 more wins over 500, he's running his hardest here to make the stop. But,
even on the route, though, this is a route where this is designed to either Wan'Dale or Darius Slayton, because you could see Malik Neighbors is half-assing the route, and he's just supposed to hold number 20 in place to allow Wan'Dale Robinson to come open. But the thing is, Drew Lock didn't process that Jesse Bates came over from the far side to follow Malik Neighbors. I don't think Locke ever saw that, because we'll see it on the end zone angle. Locke just looks at Neighbors to get 20 to expand.
You're
Once
right.
20 takes that step, he throws the football, not understanding or not knowing that Jesse Bates was right there to the side of Wan'Dale Robinson. It's a good play design, and you get it. But I think Locke is told at this point, look at Malik Neighbors, because everyone's going to react to Malik Neighbors.
Right.
And then once that defender expands, hit Wan'Dale Robinson or hit Darius Slayton, whoever's open. Slayton had that high-low basically coverage over top of him with the way it was. But look at Locke's eyes the entire time. It just snaps right to the left, right at Malik Neighbors. He sees Slayton. He's looking at Slayton. He's like, all right, I'm not going to be able to have Darius Slayton. Let's go to Wan'Dale. Doesn't even notice Jesse Bates is there, bro.
Yep, I think he broke that down perfectly.
It's so frustrating too, especially when you're going up against the Falcons defense in fantasy football, which a lot of people.
That sucks. That really sucks.
And here's the other pick six, which was on the screen. You can see, look, ball gets batted in the air. Pick six by Matthew Judon. This is a design screen, though. You have a split back formation. Wan'Dale Robinson is going to go from the boundary to the field side in motion. That's going to remove Alford. So Alford is now removed from the middle of the field. That tells Drew Lock, I have free access one-on-one to the backside, because the play side of this play is towards where Wan'Dale Robinson is going. And you're going to see Tyrone Tracy Jr. also go that way. And now watch Jake Kubis. What is Jake Kubis doing? He's saying, I'm going to go that way. That's a design screen to the field. That's a design screen to Tyrone Tracy Jr. with two stalk blockers, Jake Kubis going up to get the linebacker, and then Wan'Dale Robinson also as a lead blocker. You have about 4 defenders outside that hash. But since Alford left, that gave that impression to Drew Lock that he has this free access one-on-one. So he goes to throw, but the right side of the line of scrimmage was blocking screen, tried to cut, and we'll go over that here in the end zone angle on what exactly happened there, because I'm not excusing it. It was really poor technique by the right side of the line of scrimmage, but that's why Evan Neal was attempting to cut. We've seen Evan Neal try this before. He goes and he tries to cut the legs, and it's supposed to be a quick bang, bang play. This isn't just Evan Neal just falling on his ass. This too, you have a 4 technique over the top of you, and then you have the wide defender, Arnold Ebiketie, Penn State great Arnold Ebiketie, and you watch the 4 technique. Contacts Evan Neal right there, and that throws an already off-balanced player, Evan Neal, to the ground, and he misses the cut where Arnold Ebiketie goes inside, and that gets both 96 and 17 right into the lap of Drew Lock. So it's a complete breakdown from that right side, but it's also a play that was supposed to go to the other way, and you can't really blame Lock for saying, hey, I just want to go to my free access. I have that one-on-one, but if you look at Malik Neighbors, he's not really open on this play either, because the other middle defender doesn't really get held in place. He shades in that direction towards Malik Neighbors. You can see him on that hash. So if he throws this football, you can get it to him here, but Malik Neighbors probably getting tagged unless he spun out and went outside, which would have been elite. But yeah, that looks like a design screen that Locke decided to not throw to the screen side.
What's funny is, the best option would have been just throw it at the feet of the failed screen sign.
The best option would have been, you know what? I'm just going to catch this snap and fall. I'm going to fall down. No, but you're right. You're right.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Oh, I know.
Very frustrating.
I know. And now we're going to have some defensive plays if we want to go through it, or we can leave this up like this for a minute. I can exit it. And if we want to talk about the defense before we get into some of those plays, I only have like 3 or 4 of them. I don't really know if it matters, but I wanted to bring up one name before we get into some of these plays. And that's Deonte Banks. He had 2 really solid reps in this game. And then he had the pass interference, which was unfortunate. He didn't need to do that. He had Dane Belton as inside help. It's just one of those things where it's like, trust yourself. But he had the PBU that we're about to go over on the first play of the game, where he stayed with McLeod. The ball came on Thibodeau, I think, pressured Michael Penix. And then you saw Deonte Banks get his hand into the catch point, knocked it away. And then he had the other one on Drake London in the end zone, which was like, oh, nice. The one thing I got to say, though, about Deonte, please don't stand over Drake London after you do that, because he stood over him and you saw Belton come over and kind of push him away, and the ref pushed him away. I'm like, don't take a stupid penalty when you make one of the only good plays you've made in the last few weeks that you've played. So let's be a little bit more humble, I would ask. But that's coming from some idiot sitting in a chair not playing football, and you are out there playing football. But let's avoid the penalties. The Giants were penalized 10 times in the game and removed the touchdown. How many touchdowns, Dan, have the Giants lost out on for stupid penalties this season?
I saw something from Doug Analytics, Dougie Boy on Twitter yesterday, that Malik Neighbors has taken 5 illegal shift pre-snap penalties this year. The next highest player is 2. So that was definitely eye-opening. So it's just a microcosm of the bigger issues what they've been with, just not prepared, not taking way too many penalties.
And it's also what the offense is trying to do. Like Dable, he's getting illegal shift penalties because Dable's trying to move him around so much.
Yeah.
So it's on Neighbors. You got to get freaking set, bud.
Yes.
You got to get set. It's also on the quarterback to ensure that he is set. So it really depends on when that ball.
And that attention to detail is an issue. Like it's a concern for me when it comes to Neighbors, because the knock I had on him outside of like, could he beat press, which we thought he could, we just didn't see a lot of it at LSU, was concentration drops. And those have popped up this year with the Giants, and those are attention to detail. I think that's partly because of attention to detail.
Yeah, he's trying to do a lot. And you're right. Yeah. He does, like, it's not like, oh, he's bad at catching the football. Of course, he's amazing at catching the football, but it's ensuring that you have that football caught before making another move, because the most important part of making a play is catching the football. You need to secure that before you do anything else. All right. Here's that first play that I was referencing before from Deontay Banks. You're going to see this is something the Falcons did, and they did it well whenever the Giants were in man coverage. They would motion their outside guy to the field inward, and they would see, okay, confirm man, Deontay Banks is going to follow. And now you're going to loop him right back outside. Deontay Banks does a good job staying on top and to the inside of this. It's an out and up route. He gets right back into position. This is a good play by Deontay Banks to fight through the catch point and get that PBU. But we saw that same exact play design from the Falcons offense on a couple running plays where they would run towards that side, and there was no contained defender now. And the apex defender didn't really get out to the position he needed to contain. And it ended up being a big run for, I think, Bijan Robinson, which is something that was exploitable whenever the Giants were in man coverage. But again, good play by Deontay Banks on this 3rd and 7 to get the Falcons off the field.
Yeah. Good play by Banks. Actually a pretty good throw from Penix here under pressure. Just McLeod can't finish the play here.
And he should, because Penix got it to where it needed to be. We saw Kayvon, who had a solid game, I would say, on tape. He ran through that tight end a few times. I don't know which one it was. They have a bunch of backup tight ends, and he was running through them whenever they tried to block him like that. So good on Kayvon Thibodeau. But again, we have our thing with Kayvon. I wish he was a little bit more impactful. I think it's safe to say. Here we have first down on that dig to Drake London. You're going to have a pirate stunt. This is actually the 3rd and 7. I have it backwards. This is 3rd and 7. The last play was 1st and 10. But it's 3rd and 7. Catch by Drake London. I like what the Giants did up front, though. They're going to be in cover 1. You're going to see a pirate stunt. You're going to see Muasau and Micah McFadden just go inward, and they're going to loop around for Garcia, I think that is. And he just can't really get free. And then the ball's just right where it needs to be to Drake London for a first down. And look at Penix's eyes. Look left, snap right, boom. And this is the type of stuff we're talking about, man. I'm going to look left. I'm going to open up the dig with my eyes. This is something he did so well back at Washington, and we praised him for it during the draft as well.
And I thought he did a great job of that in this game. I talked about that on the top of the podcast. I think when it comes to Penix, like, this game was in a lot of ways what I saw from him when I watched him at Washington and what I kind of expected from him, Nick. When he was able to kind of keep things in rhythm on time from within the pocket, and credit to him for doing things like you said, using his eyes here to open up the backside dig, or in some situations, just snapping his head around fast enough off play action to hit that defined first read. I think he was a 38% first read target share for Drake London in this game. Really heavy first read target share for Penix. When he was, this is another good example that you're showing right here. When he's able to kind of get his feet in that landmark and plant them and drive the ball, that's when he's at his best. And he could really light it up from a ball placement standpoint, from a velocity standpoint, from an arm talent standpoint, from a timing standpoint, all the things you want to see. You could see it there, see that whip on his arm. Mm-hmm. But there were also plays in this game, Nick, the 3rd and 9 he missed, among others, where he's forced off that landmark. And that's when the arm talent seems to wane for me. It's more of a wind up, and it's more of a loopy throw that drops, and it was short multiple times. Even kind of on the early vert to Drake London, where he has that one-on-one, the Giants are lined up in press man before the snap. There's no safety help. It basically looks like a cover 0 look. He kind of sails that first ball. That's maybe more of a timing issue, but it just seems like he's better to me when he has the chance to drive the football on those intermediates. And so if they can get him, and this is what I said about Penix his entire time when we evaluated him, to me, he's a quarterback who needs an offensive line. He needs pass protection. He needs structured system, a good structured system to throw out of that can take advantage of his skill set. Because if he can be allowed to just eat up the intermediates like we saw at times in this game, the intermediate levels of the field, I mean, with his velocity, with his timing, with his ball placement, he's going to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. It's just those times where he's forced off his spot that I still struggle with can he make those plays outside of structure?
It's something that he has to prove for sure. He didn't
Yeah,
really have to do it all that much. He wasn't pressured that much at Washington.
right.
They had such a spread, wide open system with what, 3 day 1 or day 2 picks at wide
And
receiver.
1 or 2 tackles as well. And
Yeah,
Rosengard has been
and
great.
that.
And yeah,
Yeah, no, I like Michael Penix Jr. and I think he can have success, but that's something that he'll have to overcome. I thought he maneuvered the pocket solidly when he was under pressure,
same.
but how much was he under pressure? I think the Giants only had 9 pressures in this
Right.
game.
Not often.
There's one play in particular where he stepped up, avoided, set, and then fired a pass. I don't have it in here, but that was a good play by him. But this is an excellent example, like you said, of his eyes. Again, I'm gonna look right, snap left.
And it's like crazy that he's doing this stuff in his first NFL start, but Drew Lock, we're like struggling to find examples of him doing things like this.
I know. Well, it seemed like the Falcons knew what the Giants were going to do a lot of the
Right.
time, right? And here there's this huge void because the Giants, they press up on the line of scrimmage. This one linebacker is going to go on the blitz, or he's going to handle the running back, but he's going to be voided from the area that he was in. So now it's just, since you judged off of the pre-snap leverage, you're going to have an inside release from Darnell Mooney. You're going to bring him outside in, use that wide receiver on the line of scrimmage as a pick. So there's going to be natural separation. You're going to know that the defender on Darnell Mooney is going to be high and to the outside. So you run Darnell Mooney and you have Darius Muasau match the running back. So now you know you have Mooney in that throwing window. So your job is to influence Micah McFadden away from that throwing window. And that's exactly what he does just by looking that direction. And his first read here anyways is Drake London. So he looks at Drake London. Now, I don't love what I see, but I know Micah McFadden's there. I'm betting that Muasau is in man coverage on the running back flaring out, wide open throwing window. Good play.
Yeah. And one thing about that, as you roll that back, it's just something I appreciated about Michael Penix's game at Washington. And I think a lot of the great quarterbacks in the NFL do this. Look how quiet he is in the pocket from a footwork standpoint. He just is tuned in. He's using his eyes to manipulate the defense, and he's not wasting a lot of movement with his feet and with his base. And that's why he's able to transition to that base where he can throw out of and just drive the football the way he drives it here.
Just drives it right where it needs to be.
He is really interesting prospect on those drive throws. I think his arm talent stands out. Like there were a couple anticipatory throws too, I thought, that were excellent in this game from Penix, where he hit the out routes really quickly, just hit his back foot and drove it before the receiver got out of his break. And I think to me, where his arm talent stands out is actually on like those outbreakers, those quick in breakers, or just those kind of drive throws. When he starts to throw downfield more, Nick, I actually don't think his arm talent is that special personally. And I said this during our pre-draft valuation. I think Rome bailed him out at times. I think ultimately a lot of the time, yeah, he got away with it, sometimes with good anticipation, less so with the arm talent and taking advantage of space. That whole offense took advantage of space at Washington. It was something that concerned me going to the NFL. There's just not that much space in the deep half to work with. But again, there were definitely good moments for Penix on this tape.
Absolutely. And here we see the third interception of the New York Giants season. And it comes at the expense
Pretty lucky
of
one.
I'd say 2 of them have been pretty lucky. And then the other one was Trey Hawkins, the third. And then he ended up on IR. Penix hits that back.
I won't call the first one lucky. Dexter Lawrence made that first one happen.
Okay. Yeah, but unlucky as just in it popped in the air and it fell into the arms of the New York Giants. But you're right. It was caused by Dexter Lawrence. If Kyle Pitts is open, and this really, Dane Belton deserves assist here because Dane Belton punches it out of Kyle Pitts' grasp and right into the hands of Cordell Flott. And I think this is Cordell Flott's second interception. I think he had one against Dak Prescott, I want to say, in the Dallas Cowboys last year. But look, this is a catch by Pitts, who is a bust. I think it's safe to say. And Belton just punches that out. Belton, look, he is not a perfect player, but we have praised Belton for his ability to create turnovers. It just seems like Belton does a good job creating turnovers. I think if Dane Belton was on a team that wasn't pathetic, he would be a really good role player who could earn like 20 snaps a game, maybe even more on a team that is in these sub packages where he doesn't have to worry about fitting the run so much. You trust his eyes. I think he gets into throwing windows. I think he's annoying. He has range. He's explosive. I don't think he's the best in coverage, but he's good enough in coverage. And he just comes away with little plays like this that wind up creating turnovers. It's just something that has not necessarily happened all that much this year, but we've seen it through the previous seasons of his career. And it's also, the Giants are down so much in these games that they're not passing in the fourth quarter. There's no offense is desperate against the Giants defense ever. So you don't really get to see a lot of these players on this roster create turnovers either.
Yeah, it's a great point.
All right. Those are all the defensive plays.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please hit the like button. Please comment. Please stick with us as we go through it. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. We're recording this on a Monday, Christmas Wednesday. Enjoy your time with your family. I know I will be enjoying mine. We will be doing the Jewish tradition, Nick, of going to watch a movie, me and my family. And
What movie
then
are you going to see?
we are going to see the Bob Dylan movie.
Oh, okay.
Should be cool.
Do
And
you have
then
an
we're going to
impression of Bob Dylan?
where have you been, my blue-eyed son? Where have you been, my darling young one? Not bad.
That's not terrible. No.
Not terrible.
No.
I've walked and I've crawled down 6 crooked highways.
Okay. You're feeling confident now. I love it.
But we're going to do that and then Thai food instead of Chinese. That's the move these days.
Oh, you're changing it up.
I pushed hard for that. Look, I'm not trying to disparage it, but Thai food is light years better than Chinese food. I hate to say that to all those.
We're going to get some hate mail. We're going to get some hate mail from our Chinese.
We might, but I think most people are on the board of this. I mean, it's just higher quality ingredients. Let's just be honest about the situation. I hate to say
we know what he's insinuating, everybody.
I don't know what you think I'm insinuating, but that's not what I'm insinuating. Let me make that clear. I don't know what it is, though. Anyway, have a great rest of your week. Happy holidays. Enjoy the time with your family. Watch some football. It's going to be some fun football. Not related, but there will be some fun games to watch. So have a great one. Thank you so much. Have a good night.